Jimmy McAllion found the net. Goal for Wednesday.
Terrific goal by Sheridan.
Chris Waddle, is he going to have a crack?
Oh, he does, and he scores. Still Glenn Wheeler. Aidan Flynn works the
Is there time for a winner?
Deflated, that's the word. A 78-minute sucker punch against a side looking to bounce back to the Premier League. I shouldn't be disappointed, but I can't help but feel exactly that after seemingly coming so close to some more points this league. Still, we've got a preferred bidder, and I can drink to that. Cheers. Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Tie-Dye podcast. I'm James Mappin. Alongside me is Mr. Matt Johnson. Matt, how's it going, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, James. What about yourself?
I'm all good, mate. I've got the board. I've got the American flag. Where's your American flags and all that sort of stuff? I thought the Conservatory would be fully decked out in it this afternoon.
I'm waiting a touch until everything's gone through before we go full Star Spangled Banner and.
You saying I've gone too early? Is that what you're? Is that what you're
No,
trying to
James.
insinuate?
I'll be honest with you. I think you've just got ahead of the curve. Let's leave it at that, shall we?
Wait a minute. Let me just cancel all that stuff from Amazon. Then Oh no, Matt. Last week we were debating whether it were going to be Storch or Ashley. We both kind of wanted it to be Storch on Tuesday evening, very late on. I mean, it feels like an absolute age ago now, but it's the first time we've kind of officially spoken on the pod since then. It was confirmed that it was going to be Storch, or more specifically, Arise Capital Partners, that are the new preferred bidder. I mean, we'll get onto it a little bit later after we've talked about the match. But just quickly, are you happy with the fact that it is Storch and his merry men, or were you looking forward to get the padlock out and talking about Mike Ashley?
No, I think honest answer is yes, James. I would be lying if I said otherwise about Mike Ashley. I'm pleased mainly because there is, at least in the initial phase of ownership, assuming that everything goes through with the EFL, you would like to think there's going to be less infighting amongst fans than there would have been had Mike Ashley been in. I was very conscious of the fact that over the past number of months, really, I've been really against an ownership model like the one that Mike Ashley would have had us under, from my perspective. Again, nobody else's, but I do think it was inevitable that it would have brought quite a lot of division amongst the fan base right from the off. And honest answer is I'm exhausted with all of that rubbish. I'm looking forward, which is really positive.
I said that midweek as well. Just that clean slate, or as clean a slate as we can possibly have, and just kind of move on. I know, like I said, we're going to talk about things such as points deductions and what that could mean, and EFL and all that sort of stuff. That's going to be all over on extra time over on Patreon, patreon.com/WTRD pod, if you want to get into that one. Other than that, though, Matt, how are you in yourself? I know you've been a bit under the weather the past week or so.
Yeah, mate, struck with a serious case of man flu over the course of this week.
Have you been admitted into hospital for that? And it's a killer, you know.
I honestly, and zero sympathy as well. Zero sympathy. Which is
Shock.
The worst part about it all, which I know, obviously, it's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, everybody, to all the mums listening. But yeah, it's one of those things which just sadly only the men amongst us will understand. Man flu is as serious as it gets, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, aside from that, mate, I'm all good. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm, like I said, just did all the Mother's Day stuff today. Obviously had the match yesterday, nice little saunter down Penistone Road, with all the hope and the expectation that you think you're going to get something out of the game. Although I wasn't as expecting like the one on Tuesday, where I just for some bizarre reason thought we were going to get something out of that game, and alas we did. But yeah, all's good in the Mappin household at the moment. Let's just come to some comments before we talk about the game that happened at the weekend. Duncan says venting. I wonder what you were on about then. And then it says, "Oh, sorry, spell error. It meant evening." So yeah, I mean, venting could be an apt word. You never know. I didn't dismiss it straight away. Mark says, "Thank you for everything, Mr. Bennett." For those who haven't seen yet, Ian Bennett stepping down as the chair of the Sheffield Wednesday Supporters Trust. Louis says Honolulu Wednesday. Duncan, yeah, agree. Well done, Ian. You've earned your rest. Nat's in the building. We've got Stevie as well. Hooper Poo says happy Sunday, Owls. Annie's here. We've got Kerry. We've got Phil. We've got loads of people in here this evening, which is all good. Liam says, as per the title, 8 more games until this sorry season is over. Matt, are you counting down the days until the end of the season? I don't know how many days it is, but it is only 8 more games. That's how many we've got left.
Yeah, I cannot wait until that first bank holiday weekend in May. I'll be for multiple reasons, but yeah, I cannot wait for that one to come round because I think I speak for. I would never claim to speak for Wednesday fans here. I think on this I can quite confidently say I think we all would need the end of this season, James.
Do you know what, as well? And look, I'm sure some people that are older than myself might be able to tell me, oh, back in the 70s, it were this, it were that.
Yeah.
I would be hard pressed to find a worse season than this one. Like, I know we've been, relegated into the, we've been quite near the bottom of the 3rd tier. Obviously, we've never been into the 4th tier of English football. I know some of the times in the 70s were bad as well, but I don't think any other season will eclipse this. I don't know. Let me know. Get it in the comments. I'm not going to be able to agree with you or disagree with you because I think certainly since in my lifetime there has not been a worse season at all. It's not just the points as well. It's just everything that's happened within it. I know we've never been in an administration before, so I think that one kind of ticks that box anyway. But right, let's get into the game then that happened. Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday against Ipswich. I'll just whiz through the full lineup. Charles Iofa, Otegbeyo, Palmer, Adaramola, Fuzia, Thornton, Ingleson, Heskey, Jamal Lowe and Yates up top looking for 4 in 4. One change, Dom Iofa came back into the side at the expense of Cole McGee. There was no Charlie McNeil or Ike Ugbo in the side. Charlie was sick, hence his omission. And Henrik just said that he picked Devlin Moses instead of Ike Ugbo. So I think that tells you everything you need to know on that one. What did you make to that starting lineup and squad?
Yeah, starting lineup, absolutely no issues with it whatsoever. Again, just to reference the change to the bench there with Ike Ugbo dropping out and Devlin Moses coming in. If you are Ike Ugbo, you can have absolutely zero complaints with that decision. I think Devlin Moses continued his hot scoring streak in the under-21s. Midweek as well, which is a positive. It says an awful lot when Will Granger and Devlin Moses have now jumped ahead of you in the queue for Ike Ugbo. I know I was very critical of a social media post that he put out last week, and I'm going to get into a Jamal Lowe one as well later on down the line. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? How far has that come since that loan spell? Like, really seriously, and this is the player who I think for all invested parties, there's no point in kicking somebody while they're down. Both sides of this deal look at it and just think it is best to move on one way or another. We have to find a way for that player to exit the football club. Yeah, just on that, he's on in excess of £20,000 a week. So you do the maths, it's over £1 million a year. I believe he's got 2 years left on his contract at the end of this one as well, which is mad when you think about it. I mean, that could have been a fantastic signing. In the end, it's probably going down as one of, if not the worst signing that we've ever made. I think it's got to be. It's worse than Jordan Rhodes, at least when you look at at least he played games and scored a few goals as well. Yeah. Like, I know he was not very good, or not as good as what we expected him to be. But my oh my, yeah, this is just. Got to be up there with one of the worst transfers that Sheffield Wednesday have ever made. Do you think that when people say, "Oh, we just need to get rid of him" and stuff like that, it's not just as easy as that, is it, Matt? No. Because I think my understanding is, if even we said, "Oh, we'll give him away for nothing," and another club took him on, my understanding is that we've got to make up the wages. So if they paid him 10 grand a week and he's on 20, we'd effectively have to pay him
£10,000 a week for the next 2 years until the end of his contract to make that up. So it's not quite as easy as just letting him go for nothing. Do you think there might be a chance where, or an opportunity where the new owners come in and just, I don't think we'd pay him off for the full 2 years, but
No.
give him a deal. I said, we'll give you a mil or £800,000 like today to just fuck off, basically.
And I also think, James, when you're talking about that perspective as well, I think the player also probably recognises he needs to move away as well. It hasn't worked out for whatever reason. In terms of the money that he earns, I mean this very nicely. I've always taken this approach with footballers. That's none of my business. Like, what a football club decides to pay a player and what a player can get out of a football club, whether it's the one that I support or not. It's not really my business, to be perfectly honest with you. It's something that I'm not... I know a lot of fans get hung up on the numbers of how much we're paying per week for players. It's just not something that's ever bothered me, because I think, well, they're one of the, 0.01% of people on the planet who are capable of making it as a professional footballer.
Yeah, it might not worry you, though, but I think when we're going to next season, and again, we'll talk about this later on in terms of the salary cap that we might be under, and you're bringing players in to fight for the club on $7,000 a week only, and then you've got someone on 3 times as much as that's utter dog shit. I think in terms of the actual... the feeling around the training ground and all that sort of stuff. I mean, there's still going to be people on more money than that are still under contracts. It's only going to be the new players that have to adhere to that rule. But I don't know. I just think from a morale perspective, I think it could be better that he's not there than he is. Unless he. I mean, look, he said it was back. A few weeks back, he said I'm fully committed and stuff. And since he said that, we've seen less of him, which is quite.
Yeah. He's been less committed either by his choice or Henrik's. But yeah, no, I was coming round to the point of, but I think because of the fact that he and the club both recognise that he needs a move, there will be a deal that will be found in the summer. We may be late into the window with that running all the way up to the wire, but there is. I don't see... Last summer, I saw a path for Ike Ugbo coming back into the fold, playing second fiddle initially to Bailey Kadamatri, and then perhaps he scores a few goals and he gets himself back in and there's a run again. Hasn't happened. For whatever reason, hasn't happened. Now, if you're the player and you've got a handful of years in your career left, really, because what is he, mid to late 20s? You have no idea how long that deal... like how long your legs will allow you to play for. I think you just want to play football at this point, and that appears to be also some of the frustration that has been boiling over when he's come off. If I think back to the reverse fixture of the one that we're talking about this evening in terms of away at Ipswich, he came on for 10 minutes and then went storming off down a tunnel at the end of the game, and you could see that. I know it's not a good look from a fan perspective, but it's also, you can see the frustration in the player that it's not happening for him. And I do think that there will be a deal that can be made there from both sides of the table, which I agree with you. He's never going to get the full bag. There's no way he's going to get that full amount of money. But I also think that he'd probably be realistic in thinking, actually, if I can cancel my 2 years here, can get a new contract at another club, there will be other clubs that will still be interested in taking him. Whether that is at a championship level, I highly doubt it. Or whether
he's going to have to go abroad. Yeah, 100%. Jez says Ugbo refuses to play at S6 because of the fans' attitude towards him. Allegedly, is what Jez said. He asked how old he was. He's in his pomp. He's 27. September is his birthday, so he's got he's 27 and a half years old, which you'd like to think would be his most players' kind of prime, really. With when you see the ages of other players as well. But look, he definitely needs a move elsewhere. One other thing I want to point out, Matt, is we've used just 13 players in the starting 11 for the past 3 games. Obviously, we've had 3 games in a week. I know we can't really do much about that because it's been the same throughout the season. But, I mean, I didn't count how much Ipswich had made, but I just looked in terms of just in personnel, and they made a raft of changes from midweek. And I presume, that side had changes from the game that they played at the weekend as well. I mean, it just makes a difference, doesn't it, really, when you can make those changes. You look at the end, certainly the Watford game, those boys were absolutely spent at the end. And then, they've got to go out then on Saturday, one change from that side that and if anything, it's a forced change. No, McNeil didn't start, did he? He was on the bench, but Iofa coming in for Cole McGee. And that's it. That's the only change that we can make in the side. I kind of expected a few, Joel and Darla or someone like that, just to kind of freshen things up a little bit. But when you can make changes like Ipswich, it just makes it really, really difficult in the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was something that was discussed even going back as far as the promotion campaign in League One, the need for rotation and the fact that it seemed that Ipswich had a deeper quality squad. I know we had a whole raft of changes that we could have made to our squad, but actually the depth of quality that Ipswich had at that time, and that was exacerbated yesterday. I think going to a point that we're going to discuss a little bit later, and obviously on Extra Time, about kind of like the David Storch interview and the discussion about what's happening in the immediacy. I mean, the biggest thing is the squad depth, and that we need to build a squad. At present, we are going to have to build a squad within one window, within an awful lot at the time of recording, an awful lot of restrictions. And that is a really big test for whoever comes in to play that role of director of football or head of recruitment in the summer, just because of the nature of looking at that starting lineup yesterday. Pierce Charles, I would anticipate him not being here. Dominic Iofa, potentially the same. Gabe Ottagbayo, okay, I think has been really good, and I know we're going to come on to him in a little bit. Liam Palmer, maybe. Teo Adaramola, not our player. Sean Fasir will be here next year. Jarvis Thornton will be here next year. Svante Ingolson, who knows, because I would imagine there will be championship clubs looking at him. Jaden Heskey, not our player. Jamal Lowe, out of contract at the end of the season. And Jerry Yates, not our player.
Yeah.
It's going to take a hell of a rebuild, but I agree with you, James, that 13 players, in the starting 11 in the past 3 games, that has to change moving forward. Has to.
And it's mad as well, because if you look in terms of how many players we've used all season, we've used the most all year round, which just shows you the problems that we've got in that we can only really make one change, really, in terms of not upsetting the apple cart too much and in terms of ability and things. We've used 39 players. The stark contrast to that is Swansea, who've used 26, and the league leaders, Coventry, have only used 27 players. That's obviously just in the league as well. I think if you included Carabao Cup games, would be well into the 40s, because there's a few players that haven't played in the league but have played in the cup for us. So yeah, unreal really in terms of the amount of players that we've actually gone through. To be fair, I think half of those are keepers that we've had, to be honest. But yeah.
Hilarious, that.
In terms of the game then, Matt, I think, I said it in the intro at the top, that I shouldn't have been disappointed, because you look, and on paper it's 4th against 24th, again, they're a side looking to get back into Premier League and things. I mean, they're only 2 points off the top now, I think, or top 2, I think in Middlesbrough. But I just think getting so close in the way that we did, we were 10, 15 minutes off from getting something out of the game, and we kind of expelled so much energy, and I think I expelled so much energy, both physically and mentally, sat in the stands, all the way throughout the game, the chanting, the shouting at the ref, which did quite a lot of that as well, I'm not going to lie. Getting behind the lads, just thinking you're going to get something, when it's not really on, before the game. Then for it all to be snatched away in the way that it was, honestly, I was gutted. I was gutted yesterday afternoon. Just it was that word that I used right at the beginning, deflated. I just felt like the goal went in, and it was like, just gutted. Honestly, thinking that you're going to do something. All you need is one chance to get. They were getting frustrated. Although to be fair, when the goal came, it was coming a little bit. They was getting more and more into it. But yeah, I think one of the few games that I was fully invested emotionally, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, 3 games this week, 1 point, and arguably it's the best 3 back-to-back performances for months, isn't it?
Yeah. Imagine if we'd played like this all season, we could have stayed up,
It's a really tough week, but the side has been much better with system tweaks this week, and I thought yesterday was a real show of the fact that we're actually able to go deeper into games.
Yeah.
there was a period of time around, I don't know, November through to January type of time, where if we were able to hold a team to 0-0, it was only to 60 minutes, and then it was regular as clockwork. Anywhere between 60 and 65 minutes we concede first, and then that was sort of it, and that was your job lot. Whereas yesterday, James, I agree with you, it was almost like the air being let out of a balloon, wasn't it? When the first goal went in from Azan. Yeah. It was, I think...
That was a balloon, by the way, if anyone... For audio listeners there, if they were wondering what that was a balloon that had been let off in the room,
Yeah, and also not a prop that was loaded and ready to go.
That's next week.
Yeah, that's next week, and it'll have make Wednesday great again, just labelled all over the balloon.
Hey, I've got a hat coming. No, I've not got a hat coming. No. It will be on the merch store though, if you want someone to buy one.
I was just waiting for that. A nice little tee up there. Players is on in it tonight. Nice little tee up there. Yeah. I think coming back to that, the point that you were saying there is, was it a good performance yesterday? I would argue it was a functional performance yesterday. It wasn't a good performance. It was a functional, very hard, stodgy performance where I think credit to the side, me and you have sat here for long enough this season and said we haven't got that nasty, slow it down, to make games horrible. And I do think that Ipswich played their part in that. In particular, Jacob Greaves, where it was like, anytime we broke forward in the first half, I'll just foul him because we'll be able to defend it quicker and we'll get the ball back. But I think the longer the game went on, it was nervous for Ipswich. And that is against those top sides in the division. And bear in mind, this was a side that was playing Premier League football last year. That is the absolute most that you can ask out of this squad this season. So, yeah, I've got nothing but praise for them over the past 3 games. Real positives.
I think also as well, Matt, is that Ipswich would have, like many teams I think this season, would have gone away feeling very relieved, after the result. They come away with 2-0, kind of a little bit like when I talk about the League One days, and when we won games, and I was like, oh, thank God we won that one. That's kind of similar to I think how Ipswich would have probably felt like, because up until the 79th minute, it could be 0-0.
Sorry, James, I'm not laughing. Sorry, just to pause you in this, I'm not laughing at the point. We have had a viewer in the chat from Russia, which I thought was outstanding because they had also posted in Russian. I'm not even going to attempt to try it. And then somebody had asked for a translation further down. Somebody has provided the translation, which is, my friend, you have a very round, bald head. That was... I noticed the Russian pop up in the chat on the side and thought, I wonder what that says. Somebody asked for it, and then that was just wow, superb.
Wait a minute, where's that block button?
It's always nice to see a check-in from around the world, isn't it, James?
International. I look a bit like Pitbull, to be fair, as well. If we're going down that route.
Anyway, James, you were talking about it being a credit to the squad of players based on the squad value. I think is where we were going with this.
No, you fucked it, mate. That's it. I'm done now. I'm done. I think what I was saying was the fact that Ipswich would have gone away happy with obviously getting all 3 points when and being relieved and anything else. And what was going to make was the point of is the actual squad value as well. And if you look at transfermarket.co.uk, which obviously we know is gospel because it's on the internet, their squad's worth £198 million. And ours is worth just 20, so 10 times more than ours is Ipswich's. I mean, that's just the levels, really. And I think also when you look at that, I think the vast majority of our value is made up by most of the loan players that we've brought in as well. So
that and the first of 7 goalkeepers in between the sticks in terms of Pierce Charles. I think the takeaway from me from that kind of point that you were raising there is those figures just show the importance of what David Storch spoke about in the week in regards to a strategy and a plan. Something that we were deemed unworthy enough of knowing, according to our previous owner, just over a year ago. It's really difficult, especially watching Ipswich this season, having seen them twice this season, to know that this was the side who just pipped us as well to League One. But it shows that the building and the groundwork that was laid by them in League One has the trajectory that they are on now compared to where we are, it does show that it is also possible to turn no matter how dire a situation around and turn it into a positive with careful planning. But yeah, I agree. I think they will have been very relieved walking away from Hillsborough yesterday, because we really did make it hard work for them yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going back to transfer market as well. Ndala 4, Joel Maxlow 2.2 million. That is obviously Ikugbo 2 million. Jerry Yates 1.8, Deshaun Bernard 1.5, Ingleson is 1, and Nakamba is 1 as well. So, like I said, the vast majority of it, there's 5.8 million made up of players that are on loan, and you've got Marvellous Nakamba, who's played about 3.5 minutes of football, and Ikobo, as we've just ascertained, can't hit a cow's arse with a banjo, and Max Lowe's on the treatment table. So yeah. It's working wonders for us, this valuation. You know what I mean?
Thankfully, according to Chris Wilder, transfer market's all bollocks in it, so it doesn't matter.
Thank God for that. Let's, in terms of some of the talking points that I want to point out, I want to come back to the effort as well, because I just can't fault it. I think we've said it kind of every single week recently, in terms of, there was a couple of games, weren't there, in the past where we've questioned whether we're kind of going through the motions and everything else, but I just can't fault the effort that's been put in and the effort's been shown. It is just, again, just that lack of cutting edge in the final third, and or a few mistakes at the other end. And I don't know, that's football in a nutshell. I've just explained football for you. But it's just been played out in front of our eyes for 90 minutes every single week. Yeah,
I think, again, tall order yesterday, and a difficult week. I know Watford was obviously the easiest of the three fixtures that we've played this week, but again, they, on their day, have the ability and capacity to bop a team, and they were truly awful midweek. I've been most impressed over the past 3 games with the concentration levels. We are no longer seeing spells of games where for 10-15 minutes it is total head loss, which is what we have been used to seeing this year. We're used to seeing a good, large spells of the game. It's not like one individual mistake has cost us. We've started to get to that point with 8 games to go, which is, ridiculous, where there have been games this year where it's just been, we are all at sea for this. Yeah. There have been very few catastrophic mistakes. I know we're going to come on to talk about one of the goals, which was, both of the goals yesterday were down to individual errors. But that should show that actually for ourselves as fans, that the young players in the squad are really growing into the role. And in what has been the steepest of learning curves, this is not an ideal situation to gauge any of the young players that we have brought into the squad. Yet me and you sit on here every Sunday and we do exactly that. The fans on terraces do exactly that. Up and down, before games, before Hull next week, I know I will be sat in a pub somewhere talking about whether we should be keeping Gabe Otegbayo or whether it's a great, blossoming partnership between him and Ernie Weaver. Can they play together? I think if you're looking at where we've been in the last 3 games, and again, the change in system and the change to that 3 in the middle of the park has been instrumental in my particular viewpoint of that. And it's not just because I've raised the point, it's because I think the evidence is there on the pitch. The performances have been better. I just think that as you said, James, you cannot fault the application yesterday. You can fault the quality, but you cannot fault the application yesterday.
I think it comes as no surprise either that when I look back, it's probably ever since the Norwich game, which is incidentally also the first game after we got relegated after losing to them lot down the road. It was that Norwich away end, and they were all chanting at the end and singing throughout the full 90 minutes, certainly for the second 45, and then that spilled into the Southampton game. Then Derby was, as some people mentioned, the best atmosphere that they'd had at an away game for a very, very long time. And then we've had Watford, which again it was a great atmosphere, obviously helped by the fact that we were actually leading in that game. And then I thought the atmosphere yesterday was really good, and I think maybe the fans have the players have just responded to the way that the fans are reacting. It's mad, that, isn't it? That that fans are the 12th man and all that jazz.
I would go back just one more game, James, to the second half of the Steel City derby. So the last, in particular, probably the last 20 minutes of that game, where it was just, it didn't matter what them from the other side of the city were singing. It was still all going off in that away end. And I contrast that and Norwich to Preston away on the 29th. I was in the stand at Preston away. There was nobody left with 20 minutes to go. I actually stayed to beat the traffic. If I contrast the level of support that the team have received, as you say, since relegation to middle of the season, it is making a difference on the pitch. It is. And I do also think that, yes, as fans, we have been beaten down. We have been properly had hopes and dreams crushed, all the rest of it. But that is something that has invariably led to better results on the pitch. And players have spoke about it and the managers spoke about it as well.
Well, something that didn't lead to better results on the pitch was the substitutions that Henrik made. Now, I know it's something, again, that we as fans talk about a hell of a lot, and it's a stick that many people use to beat Henrik with in terms of when is he going to make them, and he's making them too late. Well, in this time, in a bit of a sea change, I'm going to be saying that the subs that he did make just didn't work at all. Or more specifically, I think it's just the one sub that happened. It was the first one for me. Heskey's been tasked with playing further forward. Certainly against Watford, he did. I think it was in the game against, I want to say, was it against Derby, where he came off in the second half? I think Heskey stayed on. Yeah. Heskey played further forward, and Thornton came on, and everyone was like, why is it Jerry Yates come off for Jarvis Thornton? And Henrik explained that, and he kind of followed through with that in the next two games. And I think he's played much, much better further forward. I don't think he is. I think I've said it before. He's not a 6. I think he's more of an 8 in terms of in position that he plays and more effective in. But then he takes Thornton off, puts on Joel and Darla, and then drops Heskey deeper. And from that point, you can literally look and I know Ipswich did make some subs at the same time, so you could attribute it to that. But I just felt like as soon as we made that change, we kind of sat back. It wasn't really working, and we just invited onto us so much pressure. I mean, look, it could be a multitude of different things if people look into it in terms of getting tired. Like I said, the subs that they made and everything else. But I just felt like we've got Nathaniel Shalabar on the bench. We've got Marvellous Nakamba on the bench. Do you know what I mean? We've got players that specifically playing that position that can come on and do that job. Like Joel and Darla didn't have to come on for I can't remember who even came off in for a game. He came off of Thornton.
Jarvis Thornton.
He didn't have to come on for him. Like there was another substitute that you could have made instead of that one. I just don't think it worked. And like I said, from that point, I know they made their changes literally a minute after, but it all went to pot, I think, from that moment onwards.
No, I agree, James. I would say that to go a step further, you simply have to keep 3 central midfielders on the pitch. Yesterday, we clogged the passing lanes in the middle of the pitch. We worked really well as a unit to move side to side and protecting the back line, forcing the ball into wide areas. And when we got to wide areas in just sheer volume of numbers, we were able to get out there, stop crosses. When crosses did come in, we had players in the middle to be able to win the ball. That changed when you take off your sitting defensive controlling midfielder, who I think Jez said it in the chat. Apologies, Jez, I can't find the comment. He had said that Jarvis Thornton looks really comfortable. He keeps everything very simple. Jarvis Thornton is not a spectacular footballer in any stretch of the imagination.
But you don't need to be spectacular as a CDM. Do you know what I mean? No. Like, you're not defensive splitting passes. I mean, it's great if you can do, but you don't really need someone to do that, do you?
No, he is exactly what, when we were talking about that he initially broke in, and I know Peter also on the debate show has been a big champion of him. He keeps things simple. He wins the ball back. He gives it to a blue and white shirt, which is exactly what you want from somebody who sits and plays that central defensive midfield role. The change, if you do want to stretch things vertically for bringing on Joel and Darla, because that's presumably what you're using him for, to hold the ball up and to take people on and run past people, Ipswich brought on Charlie Taylor and they were ramping up the pressure. I thought Charlie Taylor was the best player on the pitch when he came on yesterday. He opened the game up for Ipswich. The change was actually Joel Ndala for Jerry Yates or Joel Ndala for Jamal Lowe.
Yeah.
The issue with taking Jamal Lowe off is, I think you pointed it out on the pod last week, James, that Jamal Lowe's effort and actually the fact that he is asked to almost do what I think it was probably last season what Josh Windass was asked to do, which was to go and join in with the attack, but then when we're out of possession, come and sit back in the midfield and win the ball. Lowe in the past couple of games is actually really instrumental in the new system for dropping into a midfield and putting 4 in the middle when we're out of possession. The amount of times yesterday that he did that, and midweek, and obviously last Saturday as well, if you're going to make that sub and take off for Jarvis Thornton, all that's going to do is just open up the middle of the park because we know we can't play with a 2 in the midfield. And I think just before Azon scored, there was a ball from, I think it was Charlie Taylor who slipped the ball into Azon. For the first time, they'd got him behind our back 4, and it was straight through the middle of the pitch, rather than everything else for the rest of the half had been feed out wide and try and get crosses in, and we defended really, really well. It was a shame. I agree with you, James. I just don't think the substitution worked. Shoe on the other foot, you can make an argument to say that he's taking off a central defensive midfielder and he's actually having a go for it. So,
yeah. There is that. And I know Henrik's not here to defend himself, and if he was, I mean, there's someone pointed out in the chat that Jarvis was on a yellow card. We'll come on to that yellow card in a bit as well. That's a great point. I mean, 15 minutes later, he then brings him off. But then there's probably also the point of Marvelous Nakamba and Nathaniel Shalabar is probably managing the minutes in
both
terms
made out of biscuits.
Well, yeah, they can only play an average of 8.6 minutes between them or something in this game. So but surely they can. A game of football is fluid and things change, and if he can only play 10 minutes. Or how many minutes did he play? Actually, yeah, Shalabar did come on 80 minutes, and Marvelous came on literally on the 90th minute for 3 seconds or whatever it was. Like, if Shalabar can only play 10 minutes of football, like, I'm sure it can stretch to 25. Like, I don't think it's just, he's played 25 minutes, that's it, he's going to get an hamstring. Like, I'm sure, you know what I mean? Things do change, or you can just hold off for another 5 minutes to bring Shalabar on instead. I mean, the other one would be, maybe he didn't expect it to go horribly wrong in the way that it did. You know, where that's it, nobody ever, Henrik never makes a substitute. Well, yeah, I could stop there, really, to be fair.
That was good. That was really good.
No, that wasn't even planned, that one.
That was good in the minute. That was good in the moment. That was funny.
But no, Henrik doesn't make a sub and thinking that it's not going to work, is it either? Like, you expect it to happen, and I suppose, you know, Jaden Heskey has played a bit deeper. Yeah. I know I was speaking to George earlier, and he apparently picked up some quotes from Jaden at his Man City days, saying that he didn't mind playing, you know, in that defensive midfielder role. However, I just think, you know, moving forward, you know, it wasn't great. Like I said, I don't think we needed to change it either. I know he's trying to win the game, but if you see how the game's been going, we have fashioned a few chances. I think everyone inside that ground would have took a 0-0 draw against Ipswich as a victory. You know, it would because nobody would have expected it. But look, he's tried to change it. It hasn't worked. Let's get on to the goal then. The goal that broke the deadlock on 78 minutes. I mean, they've pushed a fair few men up, but like I said, it was coming. There was pressure. It was wave after wave after wave of attack. It's actually the centre-back that plays it to the left-back over on that left-hand side that then gets the crossing. First of all, there's a couple of errors. Dom's got to do a lot more than just standing there to prevent the cross. Does absolutely nothing. And then the finish, I mean, it's a good finish. He's 5 yards out, 5-6 yards out. Matt, I said to you last week that whenever there's a goal, I look for the person that's kind of supposed to be either doing the marking or he's lost his man or whoever it is, and a little part of me dies inside, and it's happened again because it's Palmer's man. Like, we can't sugarcoat it and say that it isn't, because it 100% is. And And yeah, like as a kid, you get told two things really. And I didn't play any sort of level at football when I were younger, but I got told two things, and they do stick in my mind. One was, if in doubt, kick it out. Now I couldn't do that because I didn't get onto the ball. But the other one was, get goal side.
Yeah.
And he just lets us on get in front of him, and it's a simple 1-0 finish. And yeah, there we go, deadlock broken. I've got my head in my hands, and yeah, Ipswich are wheeling away and celebrating as if they've won FA Cup final in that away end. But yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's just a mark of the level of frustration that they'd felt up to that point. This year in the Championship, it's really, because we've seen a lot of goals that we have conceded, and every team, apart from Coventry, pretty much plays the same. The ball goes into wide areas and it's just volume of crosses. I'm baffled that Marvin Johnson hasn't managed to wangle himself another Championship contract, because he got into anywhere in the opposition half and just hit a delivery.
He's looking after his dogs in Dubai, I think, or something. So,
as you said, James, two things. Stop the cross, and we've been saying that for weeks and weeks on end, and compete for the ball. The frustrating thing from this particular goal is, yes, it's a smart finish, but it's not good movement from the forward. Like if he'd have really had to work for it, like he goes to shape one way and comes back inside, he doesn't. He just sort of jogs in front of Liam Palmer, who doesn't recognise the danger. And again, as you've said, James, I don't particularly want to dig him out. We know he isn't a centre-back, nor should he be a first-team regular at Championship level. We know the reasons for why he's playing. But that is what I think back to the Derby second last week, the winner for Derby. He loses his man there. He loses his man yesterday. I can think back to Sunderland in the playoff semi-final. At the same end, he loses Patrick Roberts there, running across him. It's a problem, but nicest will in the world. This season, what can you do about that? Like, I
think the other one is when you have 16 shots to our 5. Law of averages says that you're probably going to score at least one of them, and then when one of them comes from 12 yards out, then I think I came away from it, and I think I even said it on the tweet as well. It wasn't a 2-0 game, like, at all. Like, I know we did the dark arts. I know we tried to slow the game down as much as we possibly can, much to the annoyance of the Ipswich fans. But bloody hell, what the hell do you expect? When you're coming up against a team that's 4th in the league and where we've never won at home.
No,
all season.
Sorry, James, just to add to that, I would also go back and say that it was a two-way street, that. Any time that Sheffield Wednesday started to gain any level of momentum in the game, there was a tactical foul on a Sheffield Wednesday player. There was a drag back. There was somebody's shirt pulled. There was the ball booted out. Like we'd never looked to take a quick free kick yesterday, but there was always players stood in front of the ball delaying a restart. And it does work two ways. I understand why Ipswich fans and commentators in particular and the players will have felt, like we can't get a rhythm going in this game. There's no momentum. But that also comes down to the way in which that they play. Because if I think back to the game at Portman Road as well, it was exactly the same. It was, if you've got Darnell Furlong playing right back for you, he became a bit of a cult hero at West Brom for doing exactly this type of shit. He's got a throw in. He takes 2-3 minutes over every throw in. He tries to creep up the line an extra 15 yards, then gets sent back by the referee. It isn't just a one-way street, and obviously the team who is rock bottom, already relegated, is going to take the piss in terms of time wasting. I'm more than okay with it. I wish we'd have done this more over the course of the season, personally.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm just going to bring this comment up from Andrew. Andrew, either I agree or you're going to get yourself banned if you're calling me a bold twat or something like that again. So which one is it, Andrew? Just fess up and let me know.
James, that I'll take one here. That'll be me about what dye do I use in my hair. That'll be that one for me. Which I've noticed in the comments in the past couple of weeks, which what I would say is for anybody who's seen me in person, well, no, there's no dye. There's plenty of grey.
Yeah, definitely. Although we are getting sponsored by Just for Men next season, so
I'm looking forward to it.
Right, let's talk about the second goal. Well, we don't need to talk about the goal, just more in the events that led up to the goal. First of all, Matt, is it a penalty for you?
Yeah, stonewall tired challenge. If you dangle your foot out as a defender, you invite a forward to do that. I've got no complaints with it.
Because I mean, for me, I was just like, fuck's sake, that's 2-0. Like, you know, a penalty. You know, there's no coming back from it. I mean, I've watched it back quite a few times, and I think I have to say he's really, really soft in terms of a pen. You know, Fazia, yeah, he does stick out a leg, but my God, I mean, this is probably the problem with modern football, really. Yes, there's the slightest bit of contact, but you know, I'm surprised he didn't do a pirouette and you know, a pike position as he landed and, you know, and everything else, because he did make a total meal of it. I just find it a little bit...
Sorry, James, I was just going to say, it is Jack Clarke we are talking about here. So
yeah, I mean, do you know what? Just on him, by the way, again, just for balance, I thought he was fantastic. I thought we couldn't even touch him. I thought we gave him far too much respect, but that was probably in light of being embarrassed when he just kind of takes it past you, a little bit like what he does to Teo on the edge of the box, actually, for this penalty. But yeah, you know, I mean, I know people are probably going to say, yeah, but you love it when you do it and stuff like that. And yeah, like I'm not going to sit here and deny the fact that I don't like the outcome. Like if it's going to lead to a penalty or something like that, but I probably would prefer if it just wasn't in the game, full stop. Like, you know, he's chucked himself to the ground. He's won the penalty, and it's worked. I think this is the problem with kind of football, and when you freeze it and stuff, there's a still that I've seen from I think from the away end, and you look at it from there and you think, well, that's absolute stone wall there. He's just tripped him up. But then when you play it, you know, in real time, it does. You know, from the TV camera angles, it doesn't look as clear cut. I mean, my vantage point at the other end of the pitch,
he's just hit the floor.
Great. I mean, and people have pointed out that, you know, Sean Fazia didn't have any complaints and stuff. I think you could also put that down to the fact that, well, we're relegated, we lose every week, we're already 1-0 down, that's made it 2. It doesn't really matter. Like, there's no point in really. Ref's not going to go, oh, sorry, mate, it didn't touch him. Oh no, that's not a free. It's a free kick on the edge of the box, or it's not a pen, or whatever it may be. But yeah, just really frustrating, weren't it? Really, that we went 1-0 down, and then it was 2, and then you just thought, that is it, game over at that point, weren't it? Really,
I think Kevin summed it up, because I think Chef Cam got it absolutely spot on by describing it as it's a modern penalty. Yeah. In the year 2026, you cannot leave a leg for a player to fall over. You just simply can't do that, and. I think it was also, as you said, that because the feet that Jack Clarke uses to get into that position to beat Adaramola is really good, but it's the shift in body weight to send Fasir one way and him go the other. It's just really clever movement. And then again, if there is a player who's going to stick the leg out and just hang the leg out there, you are inviting a forward in the year 2026 to run into it, go over, and give the referee a decision to make. And I think the other thing I would like to say here, James, what a fucking penalty. Wowzers. Like, if you are looking at how to take a penalty, that is it. It's not laces, it's side-footed, out of the reach of the keeper, going into the roof of the net. Good goal.
Yeah, nobody's saving that one at all, are they, really?
No. Shit celebration, however, James. Sorry. Shit celebration.
No, I didn't even bother looking, to be fair. I just want to bring this one, just going back a step as well, from Stevie. Just as Furlong taking 5 minutes to tie his bootlaces, but Fazia gets booked for taking 10 seconds to take a throw in, just on Furlong as well. If anyone's got any Skechers slip-ons for him, then he will be. He might need him for his next game against. I think they've got Millwall this weekend. Just send him in the post for him if anyone's got any. Before we get on to the ref, I know we don't normally talk about refs, but I feel like this is like twice in a week. But I want to talk a little bit about Jerry Yates because he had probably the best chance that we had fell to him, and at the time I'm thinking, this is it, 4 in 4. I think at the time it's 0-0 as well when he has this chance. But Jamal Lowe wins the ball. Jerry Yates kind of on the shoulder of defenders, which I think he's always trying to do that. He's always trying to get in behind, which is something that we've not really had. Slipped him in, great run. He has one touch to steady himself, and then he's absolutely smashed it. I mean, defender slides in, and I think you can see, you can kind of telegraph it. At the time, I thought, he's got to chop in on his left foot, but I think there's a defender covering. He probably wouldn't be able to do that, and he's probably not got a left foot either. On another day, that probably rifles into the top corner, but on this occasion, we had to settle for a. Sorry, mate. I was trying to get my notes up on there as well, and it's just loaded straight up with just an audio. I was like, oh shit, that's not good. Good job it weren't that sound that you get when people try and prank you in a meeting or whatever.
Yeah,
that would have been
the FA Cup game at Wolves. That would have been a shocker.
Yeah, that would have been a bit embarrassing. But no, on another day, that one rifles into the top corner. On this occasion, you had to settle for a corner. But yeah, probably one of our better chances of the game.
Yeah, it was, and that was coming at a point in the game where we were also exerting as much pressure as we possibly could against a team that are fourth in the division. I would describe it as a chance in the truest of senses of like it was a chance. It wasn't a good chance, but it was an opportunity where we touched the ball in the opposition's box to get a shot away. It was a nice move. I think the touch took him a little wider than he'd want.
Yeah.
But again, as you said, he's then got... Could he chop back in on his left-hand side? No, because there's a player sliding in, there's people closing him down, and also there is nobody up alongside him. He has got one option there, which is to put his laces through it and go as hard as he can with the ball. Again, good defending, I think, if you're looking at it from because they've prevented their goalkeeper having to make a save as well, which is another mark of a good team, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Just on the ref, then, I just want to bring this point up because I just, as I was doing as I were thinking of things that we were going to talk about this evening, it kind of came to me. Do you think these are a point where refs come to Hillsborough or ref a game against us, and now we're already relegated, and even before that, we might not have been mathematically relegated, but everyone kind of knew what was going to happen. Do you think these, were I don't want to say conspiracy against us. It sounds really bad, that. But do you think refs come to Hillsborough or ref against us and just think, well, I don't have to give them a decision because it's not going to change whether they stay up or not? I'm not going to say they just give everything to the opposition, but anything that's close or a bit controversial, we never really get it. Because I think some of the decisions were utterly ridiculous, both. Certainly in the last two home games, anyway. I don't know. Am I talking out of my arse when I say that?
I don't think you're talking. No, I don't. No, the honest answer is I don't think you're talking out your arse, James. I think yes. If we just take yesterday's game in isolation, I do think that was actually quite a difficult game to referee because there was things going off from both sets of players yesterday. In terms of, we spoke about the time-wasting elements from both sides of it. We talked about tactical fouls from both sides of it. If I run the clock back to the Watford game in midweek, very similar type of... I wouldn't say there was loads of underhand tactics on display because I don't think Watford have really got that ability within their locker. But there were like little, I think back to Svante Ingolson running clean through and you've got somebody dragging his shirt all the way back. Would suggest that refereeing decisions it's nothing controversial because there is so little consequence on what happens based on the decisions. Does that make any sort of a sense in terms of... we've seen two, and I know we're going to come on to talk about one of them, we've seen two poor tackles by Sheffield Wednesday central midfielders this week. On another day, both of those could be red cards. Do I think that they are? I think one of them is. And again, in 2026, in modern football, I think one of them is definitely a red card. I think the other one is an orange, probably. You would card it as. You would put it down as it's somewhere in between the yellow, not quite enough to be a red. But I would also say that there was... if you take the corners or free kicks for Ipswich, there was... holding going on in the box. Anytime that we got a long throw in, players have got older people's shirts, people are ragging people all over the place. And as a referee, I suppose it becomes very difficult for if you let the first couple go, you've then got 90 minutes of that on your hands. And that is really difficult. I don't know. I think the standard of officiating across the board is something that needs to be looked at because I know once you drop out of that, the top tier of reffing, it then becomes into people who are also working day jobs as well. Yeah. And that is really, really challenging to hold down those two kind of like ideas. Yeah. It's always going to be difficult. I'd prefer this to VAR, to be honest with you, James.
Yeah, I always try and veer away from talking about refs because
of course.
I do agree that it is a very difficult task, and I feel like if I was put there, would I get all the decisions right? Well, 100% no, wouldn't. I mean, it's easier when you're sat in the stands to when you're down there. But it was other things like, we were talking about the stealing yards for the throw-ins and stuff, and absolutely like blatantly doing it, or oh, you take it, oh no, I'll take it, you take it, all that sort of stuff, and the ref just seemingly just turning a blind eye to it all. But there was a couple of moments. First of all, just quickly, do you see the scuffle between Teo and Wes Burns? I mean, I say scuffle. The way that Wes Burns threw him over his shoulder would have made Stone Cold Steve Austin proud. I was waiting for the table to come out and the steel chairs and things like that and turn it into a full wrestling match. And yeah, there's a bit of handbags. One thing I do like is when anything like that happens, I like to see the players come steaming in. Do you know what I mean? Like when someone's having a bit of a argy-bargy, everyone else comes steaming, a bit of pushing and stuff. And I think you've got to be kind of in it together, really. In the end, I think we saw what all referees do when they ain't got a clue, ain't got a Scooby-Doo what's happened, and they go, you have a yellow, and you have a yellow.
Everyone have a yellow, get off.
It weren't like they did. Hey, talking on that, did you see that fight that there was in? Is it the Brazilian league or something? Christ,
it's in the goalkeeper's eye afterwards, where it's like out like double size.
Mate, I think that was there was some tasty punches being thrown in that one. There were karate kicks. Yeah, everyone were having a go, weren't they? I mean, they were none of that in this one, but
no.
Yeah, two yellows, the right decision, because at the time I didn't really see what Teo had done. He was holding his shirt a little bit, but to get thrown over your shoulder like that, a bit OTT, weren't it?
I think so. Wes Burn turns the ball inside and then goes to set off down the line. And again, here is where I would go back to. An experienced professional like Wes Burn initiates the contact, trying to give himself a yard of space. He actually runs with his arm out to push Adaramola off him to give himself an additional yard. The difference being on this time is Adaramola just grabs onto his arm and holds on to him. He then flips him over them as the pair of them are having a wrestling match. They both kind of hit the floor. There's then all these handbags. The best clip of it is that there's a still image of like a photo of Svante Ingolson laughing at Darnell Furlong because Darnell Furlong goes steaming in and then trips over. I think he trips over his own player. I think he trips over Wes Burns, who's on the floor, which is just like, oh no, not what you want to see. I think, again, a yellow card for both of them apiece just settles everything down. I think if we were asking for a red card for that, for me, it's not, James, no.
Well, just for balance then, because if there's any Ipswich fans in here, they'll be spitting feathers that we've not talked about this one. Jarvis Thornton comes in with the tackle. If you watch the still, if you see the still image that's floating around, he does catch him studs up.
Yeah,
he does catch him kind of on above the ankle. What were your thoughts when you kind of saw it fault that first time? Because when I first saw it, I thought, ooh, he's late on that one. Again, you can't really fully see where you are. You don't have the you don't have the replays to help you out. But what did you think?
I thought it was tame compared to the GBH assault that we saw from Jaden Heskey midweek against Watford. My goodness me. My initial thought wasn't that it was a red card. I thought it was a late tackle, again, somewhere in between yellow and red. I think everything always looks worse when you freeze it in a still. And again, he is late into the tackle. It is a yellow card, but again, it is a contact sport still. Yeah. And there does have to be some element of he's not really committed to, like, it's not like the one that we saw. I know Sheffield United fans will hate this. It wasn't Calvin Phillips where he's extended his leg further after the ball's gone. It wasn't like the, was it Joe Rothwell one where he got sent off against Middlesbrough. It's a poorly timed tackle. There's no, I wouldn't say there's intent there to hurt the player.
Yeah, there's no intent, there's no aggression. I think that you're right there. His legs kind of bent as he does make contact with him, which says to me that he's pulled out. I've not seen a video like replay of it or anything. I've just seen the still that's been going round, and And yeah, I think he pulls out of it, which is probably why he's only got the yellow instead of getting that red card. But yeah, or maybe the ref. I know I'm slagging him off, but maybe they're thinking, no, they've suffered enough. Going down to 10 would probably be a bit too much. Hulkin says, James, just be glad you didn't have to listen to the Ipswich commentary for the match. Fuck my life. A bit one-sided, I guess, was it? And yeah, it's always funny when you listen to the opposition like commentary and stuff to see how they are so self-centered around that club, which obviously they're going to be. They're talking to Ipswich fans, aren't they, by and large? But yeah, just to kind of realise how they don't look at anything else other than their own club, and they don't see what's happening at any other football clubs and stuff like that. I just want to bring up one player then before we talk about Jamal Lowe. Gabe Otigbayo. Yeah. It's not long since turned 21, last month in fact. I mean, he's racked up 46 appearances in his career at Sheffield Wednesday, which I think is he's no longer just a new player anymore. He's fully got his feet under the table. Matt, I'm no surprise that I've been critical of him this season. I think we both have, to be honest. But he's one of the players that you can't deny has been getting better and better as games have gone on. He's benefited from just playing week in, week out, I feel.
Yeah, let's let Gabe be the last young player who any one of us races to write off after a handful of games. He has had an ever-rotating cast next to him, constant goalkeeper changes behind him, had to wait and bide his time multiple times after coming in for a couple of games, making an individual error which gets highlighted and then being dragged out of it. If I think back to Burnley last year when he came on, I think he came on at half-time, didn't he? And he's at fault for both of those goals that were there, and we highlighted it on the podcast at the time. If we can keep him and Ernie Weaver fit next year and recruit some experience around the pair of them, the central defensive area, dare I say, actually looks quite positive. Yeah. Based off the handful of games that we've seen. There were some crucial interceptions. If I think back to one in the first half where a player turns him inside out yesterday and he gets himself back round, spun round and makes the block. There was one also yesterday where this was something that it looks comical in the moment. I think it was as Jack Clark scuffed the weakest shot that was ever hit yesterday at Hillsborough. The ball's going over the top, in behind, and Gabe actually turns and realises, I just need to get my body in position here. And it comes off the back of his head. Now, it falls to Jack Clark's feet, but how many times have we seen flat-footed defenders just watch the ball sail over their head? Yeah. Like, I can think back to numerous occasions where I've watched centre-halves watching a ball sail straight over their head, straight onto an on-rushing centre-forward's feet. In the case yesterday, I think it was Mehmeti who was running in behind, and he just turns around and just gets something on it. Yeah, very impressed with his development over the course of this year. At 21 years old, there is still a lot of growing in there. There will still be pains and there will still be mistakes, but I think we've got a lot of that coming in the next few years. So actually, let's get used to allowing a player to get to, let's say, 50 appearances before we actually start to formulate a judgment. Because he has played, a season's worth of games now. And you can start to see who he is and what he's developing into as a player.
Yeah, I just want to bring this one from Anthony. Anthony says you two have unfairly criticised Otigbayo at times, and I think again I just say it how I see it. That's just me really, and I don't express to be the oracle or anything like that. I just however I see the game, I'll just say it. And I have said before, I think sometimes there's a bit of a delay in terms of when someone plays better or the performances are better. If there's been some poor performances before that, there is always a delay in before you kind of change your opinion on someone. I don't think you're instantly like, yes, if you don't think someone's very good and they have two good performances, you're not just suddenly just going to go, he's a fantastic player now. There needs to be a few more before you do that. But we're coming on here and we're praising Gabe Otigbayo, so I think you can't really go back and change anything that's happened in the past.
It's also, James, just to add to that, it's also an opinions-based business and you can only go off what you see. I would argue that, he has made mistakes in the past and they have been glaring errors. And, regardless of how crap the season is, I think as a fan, you're still going to point them out. It's like we've done with Liam Palmer here. Like Liam Palmer's played over 500 games for this football club. Whether you think he's good enough or not for the level doesn't really matter, to be perfectly honest with you. He's making glaring week-on-week errors that are leading to opposition goals. If Gabe Otegbayo were making the same, we'd be having the same conversation because it would be his man who was in that position. It is what it is. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly. I think just another thing to point out on Gabe as well. I think yes, he didn't start off great, but he's kind of fight or fly, and you've got to say he's fighted. Do you know what I mean? He stood up to be counted, and if he could have easily just fell by the wayside, wilted, and then suddenly not getting picked and not being very good. So fair play to him for sticking to it and sticking to the task, believing in his own ability, and we're starting to reap the rewards from it. I think, like what Jez says though, he might have to work on his first touch a little bit, but he has improved, and to be fair, has carried the defence this season, and I have to agree with that one. Right, let's quickly just on Jamal Lowe. I wanted to bring this up quickly because Ike Ugbo last week at the post on socials, just hours after we lost to Derby, and you kind of referenced those and said it was just a bad look. Jamal Lowe, I mean, either these were in his camera roll or he took a few days off because he was in, like it says, he was in the Dolomites, according to his posts on the socials, posting his outfit of the day, dancing around. Matt, are you okay with that? We had a game on Tuesday, and then we're playing again at the weekend. Do you want your number 9, who's got 1 goal in 29 games, just prancing around on socials, or are you okay with it?
I'll tell you why I have less of an issue with it, James, because he has stood up and been counted this season. He has not set the world alight by any stretch of the imagination, but he has been entirely committed to club this season. He hasn't stormed off pitches when he posts performances. He hasn't done as particularly well, or he hasn't been given the game minutes that he thought. He hasn't allegedly, and it is allegedly, refused to play. He or his teammates didn't post. He or his team of his social media. I do think Jamal Lowe runs his own social media account, by the way. I think it's quite obvious from the post that he puts out. He didn't post this an hour after a loss. If he posts a fit pic this morning, cool. It's not my type of deal, but whatever makes you happy, kid. An hour after a game, fit pics and lifestyle content, then I would have said something for sure.
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring it up because obviously we reference, again, in the interest of balance, and we're not, just absolutely slamming Ike Ugbo at every single opportunity. But I did think it was a bit strange. Like I said, he might not have been in the Dolomites on Thursday. He might have, he might have been in his camera roll, and he might have been there in the summer.
Can I ask, James, was it like a brownish, because I didn't see the post, was it sort of like a brownish suit with like a little skeleton thing on the side here?
I'm not into fashion, mate. I ain't got a fucking clue.
I do know he also went abroad mountain, like trekking, I think in the October break as well. So
like I said, it could have been, but I suppose if I'm thinking it, other people might be thinking it as well. And football is very much on optics. Do you know what I mean? There's things what, if you're out there in the public domain and people can see it, then people are going to, rightly or wrongly, kind of judge you upon that as well. It'd be a crying shame for, I'm not saying just Jamal, but someone else to do something like that. And then all of a sudden you get a massive pile on and you're thinking, as it happens, doesn't really matter. This season is done and dusted. But, had it, someone just post this video from, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, whenever it was. And then all of a sudden people are like, before you know it, you look on your phone and you go, oh shit. Things are a lot different.
No, I agree, mate. I think it is, but it is also, this is a player who I think every Sheffield Wednesday fan can say, whether you think he's been quality or whether you think he's underperformed or anything like that. The one thing that you can say about Jamal Lowe this season is he has been fucking committed, because there have been times where it is very obvious in games we are asking him to play and he's got nothing left. Like, there's nothing left in the tank for him. So again, for Jamal Lowe, if he wants to take his day off, 2 days off, and go prancing about in the Dolomites doing outfits of the day, cool, fine by me, kid.
Yeah, I just had to question myself there. John says, Dolomites is his new car. And I'm like, I'm sure it is called the Dolomites. I just checked myself. It is the mountain range in Italy. But anyway, before we talk about Arise Capital Partners, I'll just quickly whiz through the 3-word match review. At WTID Pod is where you need to go. You hear me say it every single week, but that's where you need to go if you want to get yours in for the next one next time around. Darren says Pub League soon. John says battle hard, lost. Paul Pashley, subs management again. Chris says he's given up. Hayden Steele, officials need sacking. Paul Burton says Ipswich commentators embarrassing. Paul's gone with piss poor substitutions. I'll read a few more out. Awful ref again. Didn't deserve that. Lost all interest. Bench so weak. And Matt Talbot's gone with Nakamba. What's point? Yes, didn't get many minutes at all again. And we're not sure whether we're going to see him much before now and the end of the season. But Matt, I don't want to talk about EFL and points deductions just yet, because we aren't going to do that over on Extra Time extensively at patreon.com/WTID pod is where you need to go for that. But I want to talk about kind of the new preferred bidder. Yeah. I think we're all fairly confident that it was going to be Storch, and on Tuesday obviously it was confirmed that it was David Storch, Michael Storch, his son, and Tom Costin that are heading up that bid team. I spoke about it on Wednesday. I've spoken about it a few times this week already, but I thought I'd give you the opportunity to talk about it as well. Obviously he did the fairly lengthy, 20-minute interview with Rob Staten over on Radio Sheffield. What did you make to that, and kind of the things that David Storch has been saying?
Yeah, I thought it was all very positive. He used the word fan about 30 times in a 22-minute interview, so I thought that was good. It's really evident, jokes aside, it's really evident that they are willing to and wanting to listen to supporters, which has to be a positive from a fan perspective. I think longer term moving forward, I think knowing when to turn that dial on and off is important also, because God forbid if we were all just allowed to run riot over this madhouse. I was most pleased with the really measured response that I think David gave to the questioning from Rob about the EFL. I think that was the thing which I was most impressed with from it, because he actually just decided to steer away from it. He said, we're hoping and we'll leave it all with them, and we are obviously still in dialogue with them, but, and they were treating it with the sensitivity that I think it needs from an ownership on our side of things. The reason why I say that, James, is because I know that should just be a given. But when you've had an owner in charge who's been behaving like a petulant child and blaming everybody else for the last 8 years, that is really refreshing. CEO, director of football, training ground, upgrades to a stadium, all the major boxes that are ticked off. And I also really enjoyed the fact that there was a recognition that the order of play is all there, but actually, firstly, the most important thing is the playing squad, which is the most immediate need. Yes, we need a CEO. Yes, we need a director of football. But actually, he referenced the fact that we need a competitive squad for next year. And that, I think, in the grand scheme of things, because I've been somebody who's been very vocal about the fact of training ground, long-term vision, etc., all need sorting. But in the here and now for next year, that does need to be the priority for just one summer. You can't fix all of this in one summer. This is a long, extended project, and that playing squad to make us, when I say competitive, I don't mean challenging for league titles, I don't mean challenging for playoff spots, I mean being able to take 3 points away on a Saturday.
Yeah, I think also, these, you mentioned there, in terms of, the playing squad and stuff, there's obviously priorities that need to be done, and I feel like, the work that he's done behind the scenes in preparation for putting this bid in, it's not just a case of going, oh, do you know what? Yeah, I just walked into the supermarket and picked Sheffield Wednesday off the shelf, has he really? I mean, he had to go into it. If he did, it wouldn't even be middle aisle of Aldi. It'd been in the clearance section, wouldn't it? To be honest, yes. That's where you find Sheffield Wednesday, but they've done their...
just while you were talking about that, I just had in my head an image of like a dented can of tomatoes with like one of those stickers just slapped around it. That is us, isn't it?
With the paper ripped off.
Yeah.
So it's just a can. There's no
ring pull snapped on it. Like everything's fucked.
Yeah, it's half opened as well. But he's done. You'd like to think they've done the due diligence and stuff, and they've obviously they've spoke to various people as well to kind of find out. And look, I'll be lying if I said that what he did say in that interview, I think a bit of it had been steered by other people telling him about the club and stuff, which is absolutely fine, because I would much rather someone come in and give us, the fans, what we need, and also what the club needs and everything else, rather than them thinking they know what it needs without actually being part of it. And yeah, but I do think a lot of it was genuine as well. A hell of a lot. It was coming from himself in terms of his experiences and stuff. And there was a couple of things that I really liked personally from that interview. I like the fact that he's a sport man. He mentioned football, and I thought he was going to say American football, but he actually meant football, or soccer, as he then called it. So it's not like he's just come into football at a late stage. He was, you kind of forget that they played football over there back in the 70s and 80s and stuff. But he was, well in with it all. He's into golf as well. He is a sports person. And I feel that was something that I kind of latched onto. And also, he didn't promise the earth, did he, Matt?
No.
The things that he said aren't revolutionary. He did not try to reinvent the wheel. He just said a lot of things that we've been banging our head against a brick wall with for God knows how long, 24 months or so, saying, what we need. And he just kind of, it was almost like you got a little tick, a little list, and you're just ticking off all the things that he said. Yep, he said that. Yep, he said that. And I don't think anyone can really pick fault in it. From what he said, to be honest, it's it's A star from my opinion.
No, I would say from the way in which that he interviewed and the messaging that came out was all very positive. I know that there is a discourse online certainly, and I know it's just been popping up in the chat box on the side, which I was going to come on to, which is referencing David Storch's AAR Corporation, which settled a £55 million legal case outside of court. So he was the CEO of an aviation company, of his aviation company. They paid £55 million in a foreign corruption practice, which I know this was originally highlighted by Matt Slater in The Athletic. I don't know enough about the ins and outs of it, because obviously I couldn't tell you from a financial perspective. I would have to speak to somebody who is a little bit more clued up on this. I think I may, please correct me, and I am happy to be corrected if I'm wrong here, because I did say I would do some sort of a dive into people's history, regardless of who got it. It hasn't got the club yet, so I haven't even started anything to do with it. But I do believe that it was self-reported, so that it would then, ultimately, he reported it, decided to pay the agreement and settled it where it was. So I think he in December was quite confident of the fact that this would pass the owners and directors test. How that will fly with the EFL, how that will fly with the IFR, who knows? I would assume, and again, I'm just connecting dots here, James, we wouldn't be speaking so positively from an administrative perspective, and by positively, they've actually officially named them. Which they didn't do with the last bid. We wouldn't have also had a supporters trust come out and so vociferously back them if there wasn't some level of confidence that this was actually going to pass through. Now, the other issues surrounding the EFL and the IFR, well, that's for extra time, isn't it? But in this initial instance, I thought he also didn't pretend he knows everything about this business. Yeah. Which I think is really, again, very refreshing, that he's very understanding of the fact that there are going to be people who are far more knowledgeable about this business than him. And that is really, really positive.
Yeah, putting CEOs, director of footballs, all those people that we have been crying out for. And if you look around the English Football League, other clubs have those people as well. What a coincidence that is. And and when you go back to kind of owning a football club, I think we are, we've had it for so long. We've had it for pretty much all of our previous owners' tenure. It's just been him. There was a small part, weren't there, where there was other people involved, and then it was just him. You go to the chairman before that. It was very much very what's the word I'm looking for, slimmed down in terms of the hierarchy and stuff like that. So, and I think now, people are coming into football that perhaps don't, that very rarely now do you see an owner of a football club that has an affinity to that football club. It's normally an opportunity that's arisen, and they want to get involved in it for whatever reason that may be. That they realise that they need to get other people that are experienced in that particular field to do that correct job. So I think it is going to be very interesting. Again, I know we're talking as if he's actually got the job and or signed, if they've bought the club and everything else, but if it does go ahead like we're expecting, I think it'd be very interesting to see who he does appoint as the CEO, director of football and things like that. Whether it is kind of not an internal appointment, but someone who he knows, or whether it's going to be someone. I mean, he did reference that actually, didn't he? That he's going to enlist the help of someone locally to actually help kind of find these people as well.
I also, alongside everything that you've just said, James, because you've actually put it as eloquently as I possibly could have done. When we were talking right at the top here about kind of like an initial reaction to that, and we've now, because this was only fucking Tuesday that this all happened.
It feels like it about a month ago. Like honestly, I've aged about 20 years. So.
I think it's backed up by the statements, by the way in which that people surrounding the club have been acting. Fundamentally, this is what the football club needs. Whether David Storch and the Aspire Group are the right, like owners long term, that proof will be in the pudding for that. But fundamentally, that yes, their interest will be monetary. Like they're not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. Yes, I know they've taken Sheffield Wednesday, the club, the supporters, all to their heart. If we're to take them at their word. But fundamentally, they recognise the fact that you are trying to reverse 30 years' worth of history here. You are trying to reverse a declining trend for 30 years, and you can't just do that with a quick fix by running it like a cutthroat business. That actually it needs the love, it needs the care, it needs the attention, it needs time spent on it and investing. The fact that they have also been very willing to take on board, and I know David was very effusive with praise for kind of like how much the supporters' trust have helped him out, and they've done a lot of reading, and he'd sent it to an accountant or lawyers, and he'd made everybody on the bid team read it. That's all wonderful. I think it's the fact that they are taking that on board and going, actually, this situation far better than we do. We have an outside view of it, and actually it would be really interesting to get an inside track from a fan's perspective on how you feel this should work. And actually, James, as we've always said on here, you'll find that what happens is somewhere in the middle. The truth of it will always come out somewhere in the middle. I know that it was Tom Costin who was in the Megastore pre the Watford game buying all of the books. Just on that, Tom, I do hear that Dom Howson's got a new book out. There you go, Dom, little plug for you there.
I've got one. It's called, I found it the other day, that Record Breakers book. I know it took about 3 years to arrive. But you can have a look at that one if you didn't manage to pick one of those up inside the shop. I've heard they've got lots of them still available. And are we bringing another one out this season for Record Breaking Owls as well?
Somebody will make something about this season.
Maybe Dom for his sequel. You never know.
Oh yeah, please, just have two polar opposite ends of the first.
Either that or Peter. You've got Dom, Peter, Alex, and Joe are all fighting for the rights for this season. Maybe they're all going to do one, and then they're all going to.
That would be very funny.
They'll be all outside the Megast, all selling them, all with a rucksack.
Just all in a line like that. Oh man. But yeah, I think everything that we have heard this week and everything that we've heard publicly from that bid team is very positive. But push will come to shove when rubber meets the road in the summer if they are made the preferred bidders. And what I myself, as a Sheffield Wednesday fan, am not expecting is heaven and earth moved in a season. I'm not expecting what happened for where I am just down the road at Birmingham City to take place here. I'm not expecting that. I was really pleased with the little nugget that they'd said they'd already met with Sheffield Council before they hopped on a jet back to the States to say, can we discuss a new training ground? But I'm not expecting that within the first 2 weeks. Right, here's 20 new players, here's your director of football, here's a coaching team, here's a manager, here's your recruitment, and we're building a new training ground. No, come on. The fact that they kept on referencing the first stage is to get us back to the Championship, and that wasn't, we're doing it in 12 months. It was, if that takes a year, 2, 3, whatever, fine. But we're going to get there, stabilise, and then look to kick on.
Yeah, I thought the fact of addressing the point of the additional investment was great as well. He hit it straight, straight head on, and I think also, a lot of people were getting hung up around how much money they've got and if they've got enough money and stuff. And I know I said in my kind of reaction piece to when it got announced, saying that look, it doesn't really matter. No, it does matter. Obviously, it does matter how much money they've got, but ultimately, like, spend other people's money. Look at Rob McElhenney and the other guy at Wrexham, Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, they've not got billions, but they are very smart. All right, they're different. They're movie stars, so they can attract a lot of attention and investment and stuff. But exactly that, they are using other people's money. If we employ that same thing and do the thing that we haven't done in a hell of a long time, which is sell players, then we don't need to have millions and billions of pounds, to actually plough it in. And I think it's a misconception that an owner is just going to willingly just plough all of their money into something that effectively, and let's be right, I mean, I might be doing David Storch and in a bid team a disservice here by saying that a couple of years ago they probably didn't even know who Sheffield Wednesday were. In the harsh reality of it, maybe he did. I don't know, but in the grand scheme of it, do you know what I mean?
I think the fact that he also spoke about the other football clubs that they've had taken a look at as well, I thought was smart, because actually, again, what's the point in trying to hide the fact that you've spoken to Plymouth, that you've spoken to Cardiff, and that actually you get further down the road with them and you realise that actually this isn't the right investment opportunity for you? Because I did see some of that being parroted out on the Tuesday and the Wednesday after it had all been announced as well. There will be hundreds of prospective owners going and canvassing a raft of football league.
Well, we had
clubs.
double figures.
Yeah.
Didn't we? We had 11, 12, 13, if anyone you listened to, of people that were interested in and gave proof of funds for Sheffield Wednesday. And there's only ever going to be one that's actually going to get the gig of being owner of Sheffield Wednesday. So there's always going to be failed people that want to buy something and they've either it doesn't work or they've been outbid or whatever it may be. So there's always going to be something that lose out for every one that actually gets it. Just in the interest of time, I'm just going to quickly move on. But before I do, Jez, obviously in reference to the book, says it'll be a pamphlet, not a book. Whilst we do talk about this next thing, a question for the people in the chat, what would the title of if there was a book about this season, what would the title of it be? Again, let us know in the comments. But I just want to bring up this piece here because I did not have this on my on my little tick sheet for things that were going to happen in this week, was David Storch to actually set up an X account, which I thought was a bit totally unexpected. For those that haven't seen it or read his post, under the name of Storchy Owl, which I think is a great name. That he's glad that he's got the owl in there. For those that haven't read it, I will just quickly read it. It says, back in the States now, reflecting on an unbelievable week in Sheffield. On behalf of Michael, Tom and myself, I want to thank the wonderful city of Sheffield, the local members of the community that we met, the Supporters Trust and the Sheffield Wednesday fans for making us feel so incredibly welcome. We are listening and collaborating with talented Wednesdayites across the city to ensure we deliver a best-in-class fan experience whilst we continue to work diligently to become stewards of this unique historic club. Please know that we will be doing everything we can in the interest of a better Wednesday and a brighter future for everyone associated with Sheffield Wednesday. See you soon, David. What did you make to that? And I suppose as well, David Storch being on X, I think he's up to the point of us doing the pod. He's made 3 posts, one post and two or three replies. I think he's done, including a picture of him with. Is it Michael Jordan that he's with? Yes.
Without wanting to sound all bar humbug here, James, once he's made the post, close it, delete the app, and any time that you next want to post something, re-download the app, sign back in, post, delete, because X is a really tough space to be as a Sheffield Wednesday fan. It's really tough. I had access to our X account during a fans forum for about 3 hours, and not only had the phone battery completely fucking gone, but also the level of like this point followed by this point, which doesn't like the viewpoints are so far reaching. And I've also seen, and this is something that, you know, as fans, people find quite uncomfortable, regardless of who the previous owner was, I have seen what happens when it gets nasty. My personal belief, I would just encourage David, if you are going to go on social media, is just to be very mindful, and I'm sure he will be as a fucking CEO of this, and he doesn't need some 36-year-old idiot to tell him this. But from somebody who has existed in the Sheffield Wednesday space and exists online, obviously through a platform on a podcast, we're not a forgiving bunch online at all, and to take everything with a massive pinch of salt. Because how many times have we said it, James? You get the reaction on social media, and then you turn up to the ground, and it's nothing like it has you believe online. Absolutely nothing.
I think, you're right. I think right now, 99.9% of the interactions that on that particular post. Now, I've not read all of them, and I think there's probably going to be a lot of them. I think last time I looked, there was 200 and something replies or whatever. He'd got 5,500 followers already, literally overnight. I think, the 99.9% is going to be extremely positive, but you are 100% right in that as well. I feel like now there is a way to get to him.
Yes.
Previously, before yesterday, or whenever it was when this X account surfaced, I think it was yesterday. Again, the days are just merging into one. Honestly, anyway, there was no way of getting to David Storch. Now, I mean, look, you can choose to not reply to it and things, but you can, and then he does get a very slippery slope quite quickly. And we can only look for the previous owner. He was on LinkedIn. A lot of people said it wasn't him. It 100% was. Replying to the comments, his email was very easy to decipher and to email him. And he replied to those as well. And it's not, again, you go back to just, you referenced our Twitter account and stuff, and it's very easy. All the nice comments and things, I'll just be brutally honest, like they get the nice and things, but they don't, the comments are there. They just keep coming through. Those that touch a nerve, you do, well, the negative ones, you do actually sit up and you take note and things, and then and then you start replying, and then before you know it, you're wrapped up in some sort of argument. You're trying to back yourself or cover yourself or whatever it may be. Put your argument across, and before you know it, it's more and more people pile in, and it gets a real mess. I mean, look, it's great that he's come out and he's speaking to people. I just think 100%. That, again, just being brutally honest, it's better if it was done. I mean, look, if he does that and he's deleted it, or he's, I don't know if he's got a PA or he's got someone else that can just do it for him and say, just send this tweet and put it out there, and boom, it's on there. That's brilliant. I just don't want it to turn nasty.
You don't want somebody sat staring at their phone after we've gone 4 games without a win and looking at the type of comments that get posted post those. So, it is what it is. Good luck to him, because X is a difficult space.
Exactly. Right, before we wrap things up, I'm just going to read some of these titles. We've got the Great Escape is what John says. Anthony says dog shit. Steve's gone with a Yorkshire nightmare. James Reaney says it can't get any worse, can it? It can. Kerry's gone with Hell on Earth, the Wednesday saga. Dan, we are a punt of a club to purchase. I don't know if that's your book title.
That's the sales pitch. The sales pitch for the book.
Lee says I don't believe it's actually him. It is him, Lee. I have had it verified by a few people, and I think Rob Staten actually came out as well. And if you don't forget, Rob was the only person.
The one who's got the line.
Yeah, he was talking to him. He's had an interview with him already. He did 2 pieces before. If Rob says it is him, I have to 100% trust what Rob Stain's been saying. Big Rev says Wednesday had a nightmare. James is going from hell to Honolulu. Dan says money's too tight to mention for the name of the book. Yeah. Is there time for a winner? Is there fuck? Is what Steve said. And yeah, keep them coming in the comments. So if you're listening to this on demand and things like that. But we're going to wrap things up now. We are going to head over to Patreon in about 10 minutes' time. Patreon.com/WTID pod is where you need to go. You can get a 7-day free trial as well. We are going to be talking about why do the EFL hate us. Strong title, but it certainly feels that way when we're having, we could be knocking on nearly 50 points or near enough that sort of number in not such a long time either. So we are going to be talking about what the EFL have said, the points deduction, the salary cap, what that's going to mean, what's that going to mean to the Storch and Costin group as well. But no, thank you very much everyone. Do really appreciate all your support as always. And we'll see you all next time. Before I can hear the rain, Matt. It sounds like it's an absolute thunderstorm where you are, mate.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Sorry, all for anybody listening at the end of this episode.
We are bringing out an ASMR video as well, if anyone is interested, in sending you to sleep with the rain sounds. But no, before we do that, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.